Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Don't Forget to Tap, the podcast, the story about somebody being new to jiu-jitsu at kind of a midpoint in their life where they just were looking for something new. And this is that story. This is me documenting and embracing being new and being humbled in jiu-jitsu pretty much every day. But having a lot of fun doing it with really great people and really phenomenal professors and coaches and people that mentor on and off the mats. So this is my new camera. It came with a ring light, so hopefully the light is good. I've got my microphone here, so whenever I'm doing these episodes, this is a little bit what it looks like. I typically do the headphones and the microphone. I just don't always have the camera, but now that I have a camera, hopefully a lot more video episodes. I think that's pretty exciting and pretty cool, actually. Um, so yesterday was a really big day. It was an awesome day. It was my first tournament in jiu-jitsu, and I want to kind of walk through why I decided to do this podcast, what the preparation was like, and then the day of, and how it kind of played out and everything. And so it could be a longer episode. It might be a really simple episode. It just kind of depends on the flow. First video episode of me just kind of sitting staring at a camera like this. And I can see myself over here. So if you see my eyes flicker, it's actually me looking at myself, which it's always kind of a weird experience. But anyway, so yesterday was the first tournament, and so why I decided to sign up for this tournament in the first place was specifically the date. And I saw on Instagram that one of the coaches or professors listed it as a tournament that was up and coming, and I'd always had this curiosity about tournaments, and I'd asked about it before, and when do you think you should start competing and stuff like that. And so, as a frame of reference, I'm a three-stripe white belt, which is, it means you've kind of been doing it, but you haven't been doing it all that long. And you still have no idea what you're talking about. And I embrace that wholeheartedly. But I love that aspect of it because it gives me more of a field of understanding of where I'm at and how much I have to work on. And it really kind of puts you in that mindset that like every detail matters. And I think that's really cool and really humble. But so I asked my coach a long time ago, when do you think somebody should start competing? And I won't say that I think that there's a particular time. I'm definitely not the person to give any kind of mentorship or guidance other than my own experience and when I think a person should start competing. But I do remember Professor Fabi, who's the leader of our gyms and just an absolute phenomenal person, mentor, just such a good person. And I remember her saying at one of the classes, at the end of one of the classes, that what she recommends, if I remember this correctly, and I'm going to try not to butcher this, that she thinks that you should compete at least at every belt. And so it kind of gives you that difference of where you're at and like where you stand and everything. And I'll fast forward on the tail end of it, why I think that's absolutely true. I could not agree more, at least as a white belt anyway. But so what I would say, what I would tell you guys is that I decided to do this tournament specifically because of the date. So rewind a year ago, February 20th, 2023, I was in a vehicle accident on a work trip in Phoenix, Arizona. And the reason why that impacted me so much wasn't so much of the physical, like what it did to my body. It definitely took a toll on me, but there was no surgeries, nothing outstanding or anything like that. It had a lot to do with the stress and the anxiety that came afterwards because just full disclaimer, and this podcast is about kind of brutal honesty. I didn't get the support from work that I was hoping to get, and it put me in a position where I could end up having to pay a lot of money because it was a no fault type situation, and so everybody kind of had to do it. But because it wasn't my personal vehicle, there was a lot of question on like who was going to cover it kind of deal, and it just put me in this like downward spiral with like work and stuff like that. And it was really tough. And for about 4 or 5 months, I kind of really shut down as a person just because it was just always there. Like there was a presence of it. There's a little bit more to that story, but I'm going to leave it simple and leave it at that. And so, I really shut down. I kind of quit jujitsu I thought I was quitting indefinitely, and I was making all kind of excuses, and it always turned into, I'll go tomorrow, I'll go Monday, I'll go next week, I'll go next month. And you fast forward, and so between February and basically July, I think I only trained like 2-3 times tops. And I just felt this huge hole in my life, that like this great thing that I just discovered was now missing. And it was like missing a piece of my identity almost. That sounds crazy, but it was that impactful to me. And I think missing jujitsu also really kind of pulled me into that slump, because I know there's a lot of stereotypes of like the people that quit jujitsu, especially earlier on in their journey. And I didn't want to fall into that stereotype or that stigma or anything. And here I was falling into that stereotype and that stigma, because I started September 2023. I think September 26th, if I'm not mistaken. I'll go back and check that later. And here I am in February, and I'm already kind of quitting. And I didn't like that at all. So come July, got back on the mat, sucked up my pride, sucked up my ego, and I got back out there and I put myself out there. And the first thing I did was I actually signed up for a private lesson with now Professor. And when I left, he was coach. When I came back, he was Professor Marcelo, and such a phenomenal individual. He sat and had a conversation with me, and that conversation was such a game changer. And it really put me back in the mentality I needed to have as far as just where I needed to be with jiu-jitsu and everything. So I get back on the mats and I start training regularly, and obviously you miss for like work trips and stuff like that, hoping not to have, the Obadiah's effect of, just reoccurring things or the never ending loop of things. And I ended up, I got really into training, fell back in love with it. So grateful for the people that, have just fully embraced me again as a whole, coming back into jiu-jitsu. It's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. Gracie Baja is an absolute family. I'm going to touch on that piece too, especially on the tournament side of things. But this tournament was on February 18th of 2024, and that's almost exactly 1 year from the date of the car accident and when I shut down and when I quit jiu-jitsu for a little bit. And that was really important to me. That date was so significant because no matter what happened, if I signed up for this tournament, it was not about me versus anybody on those mats. Not really, anyway. It was about me versus me and showing up to jiu-jitsu and being there for myself. And so I signed up and I did it. I committed. I think it cost me $100 to sign up for it. And it was it's called the Austin CompNet. And so CompNet, what I'm still learning the terms, conditions, stuff like that. But CompNet is specific to Gracie Baja, and it's a Gracie Baja tournament. It's all the local Gracie Baja schools or within the vicinity coming together and competing. And I signed up for it. I thought it'd be a phenomenal tournament to do to start out, because Gracie Baja, we all follow the same regimen on how we learn, adapt, styles, stuff like that. And so I thought it'd be a very welcoming tournament, and I was absolutely correct on that. I loved it. But I'm going to save that part for actual tournament day. So I signed up, and then leading up to it, I cleaned up my diet. So initially when I signed up, so I was, at this point I was weighing 190 maybe. And so I signed up for the 181, and I was like, I could do that, no problem. And at first I just kicked the camera, sorry. At first I was making a lot of progress, and I was getting down to like 184, and I knew I was teetering. But as we get closer, I was like, and then I found out you got to have the gi on too. And I was like, we're getting kind of close to that comfort line of like where I want to be and everything. So I decided on the very last day I possibly could. So at least for this tournament, I think you could change your weight class and your conditions up to the week leading up to the tournament. The Sunday before was the cutoff. And so I changed mine up to 195, but the only downside was now I was like down to like 182, and I'm going to be competing with a cutoff of 195, and there's probably going to be like monsters dropping down to, 195 to get there. And I was like, man, I think I kind of did this backwards of how you're supposed to be doing it, because I'm going to be coming into this tournament pretty light with like a week to spare, right? And but that's all right. So I didn't worry about my diet as much or as significantly, but my training leading up to it for that month, what I did was a lot of cardio. The Jacob's ladder, if you're not familiar with that, row machines, treadmills, the Stairmaster, the stairs. It's like going upstairs. I think that's what it's called, Stairmaster. Did a lot of that. That thing absolutely kicks my butt, and it's a great leg workout, and I was a big fan of that. Lots of pull-ups. I just wanted to really do things that like honed my ability to control my body in different positions. Tons of pull-ups, tons of crunches, wrapping my legs around a punching bag and doing crunches like the, kind of like Rocky style and stuff like that. But I didn't really worry about weights too much. I did weight training, but I did low weight, high rep training, and definitely felt good about that. My body felt good. I leaned out. I had a lot of people at work asking if I lost weight. Yes, I lost weight, but it was weight that I wanted to lose. So it was really good. It was a lot of fun. Um, and then so I just kind of did that, and I cleaned up my diet. I still drink way too much caffeine, as I'm about to do, and I probably didn't hydrate enough. That, looking back, one thing that I would definitely do different, or for the next tournament, is I would hydrate more. And then I was pretty heavy about training to a point, and then like 2 weeks out, I was only going like once or twice a week. And I would definitely say, for next time, and something that I would encourage if you're considering competing in your first tournament, is try to go, if you have the autonomy or the ability to, if you can, pending your ability to, if you can go to open mats and live training as much as possible. Those were a big game changer. The Thursday before the tournament, I went to a live training, and it was so just so busy and so high pace that I actually talked about this in the last episode. I actually puked in the bathroom, and that's okay because this is about being raw and honest, and there it is. But it was really good, and that conditioning. So I think that conditioning, there's such a difference between, here's something I learned, and I'll talk about this at tournament, at the time of the tournament, but there's a huge difference between jiu-jitsu conditioning and regular conditioning. And then there's tournament conditioning. And these are three totally different topics, in my opinion, my experience. And everybody seemed to agree with me on that yesterday. So I'm going with it. But holy crap, those are different. So general conditioning, I was really good. I have a high output. I just probably wasn't hydrated enough, to be honest with you. Jiu-jitsu conditioning is a beast, and I need to step it up, but I'm okay. I would say I'm somewhere in the middle, but I definitely don't have like the stamina that, a lot of the higher end people have, or just the people that, go more often, because the only way to build that stamina or that conditioning is to go more. And so I think that's a huge lesson, is showing up more, making jiu-jitsu kind of a daily practice as much as you possibly can, and going as often as you can, I think is really huge, and definitely something to bring back to the lab for me to work on. And so trained, learned as much as I could, and I didn't. Okay, so again, leading up to it, something that I will do next time that I did not do this time, I didn't really read the rules, how to do points, how points are accrued, how they accumulate, things I can do, things I can't do. I didn't read any of it. I went in completely blind, and basically my learning the rules and how points work was just during training, asking people if I can do this in the tournament. And luckily, Coach Alex, phenomenal human being, phenomenal mentor, phenomenal person, great at jiu-jitsu. He really took me under his wing, as he has in so many other circumstances. And he was the one that really kind of helped me develop a game of like what I was going to go in and how I was going to approach the tournament, and kind of taught me as quickly as he could points. And I'll get to that on tournament, why that particular thing is so important. Um, and advancing my position and stuff like that, and just really like how points happen and rules and stuff like that. And so, Coach Alex, I owe you so much for that, because that tournament would have been a nightmare had you have not taught me the things that you taught me. Um, and then outside of that, I just kind of did what I could to maintain and keep good mobility and everything. So leading up to, I did not train the day before. I was on the fence. I trained on Friday. The tournament's on Sunday, and then I took Saturday off and just kind of got loose. Took some Epsom salt baths, did some stretching, foam rolling, stuff like that, just to get loose. I would consider going to the gym, and I would probably consider doing like some light training, maybe a little bit of light sparring the day before. But I felt pretty good going into Sunday with the way I did it. And then I get there. So the tournament started at 9 a.m. And it's at a high school, Jack C. Hayes High School in Buda, Texas. And I wasn't scheduled to actually compete until basically 2 p.m. And so what my coach told me leading up to it was get there maybe like 2 hours before. And I'm glad I did. It could be a very long day, especially for the people that have kids and then are competing later themselves, like my buddy Lance. The kids compete really early in the morning, and then he didn't compete till later that afternoon. So that's just a full day of being at that tournament and sitting through a lot of matches, but getting to watch phenomenal people. And don't get me wrong, I in hindsight, I would actually go a little bit earlier to watch more matches because, man, just the caliber of these human beings and to watch and learn from these people on the mats, it was incredible. It was inspiring. But I get there and parking. Luckily, Gracie Baja did a phenomenal job of highlighting where to go and stuff like that. And then, so I walked in and they had a registration desk at the table, and I basically told the guy at the front, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And if you know me at all, I'm goofy. I don't get too serious about too many things. And I told him, I was like, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing. So he stamped my hand. I think it's all gone now. And he was just like, this lets you go in, this lets you go out as much as you want. And he told me that weigh-ins are, he checked my name. I was on there. He said weigh-ins are 30 minutes before your match. Keep an eye on your match because the brackets change. And that was really important. The time of your match is not set in stone. And so my original match was scheduled to start at like 2:04 p.m. And then it went down to 1:58 p.m. And then it ended up going up to like 2:23 p.m. And I think that's actually about what time I ended up competing. But I would go in there. I found a friend, Luis, and we ended up hanging out. And then I ran into a bunch of other San Antonio Gracie Baja members, professors, coaches, classmates, and then some of the ones from the surrounding schools as well, Bernie, New Braunfels. And so the coaches and the professors are pretty much right next to the mats the entire time, and they're just nonstop coaching. I mean, it is a breakless job. Like they are nonstop just bouncing from mat to mat, coaching the students and the competitors. And holy crap, I mean, they probably have the longest day of it all. It's like an easy 8 to 9 hours of coaching. And they do such a phenomenal job. They put their heart into every single one. Every episode, I thank the professors and the coaches, but as soon as I get up there, I noticed that the Gracie Baja coaches were just going back and forth mats. And holy crap, like whole new respect for them. And they put their heart and soul into every single match into helping the students. And it was just so cool to see and so inspiring and gave me even more perspective and respect for these already phenomenal human beings. So I get there and there was a scale off to the side. We kind of hung out. We took a group photo. That was cool. I found Lance, found some professors, found some coaches, found some other students. Went and weighed myself. I knew weight was not going to be an issue because I was on the lighter side of my weight class, which is fine. And but some other people were definitely stressing the weight factor of it, which I totally get, totally understand. And so, I just kind of did that. I did not do, and I went against a professor, JP. He told me do everything the exact same way you prepare for class. And my intention was to do just that. And I did the exact opposite. I didn't eat what I usually eat before going to class. I did not do any warm-ups. And so one thing that I wish I would have known that I would have prepared for a little bit more is they had some practice mats outside of the actual tournament. And people were going in there just to kind of warm up, do some light sparring, flow rolling, stuff like that. And I would have, had I known that, I definitely would have gone in there with a friend and just kind of gotten a few rounds in just to kind of warm up a little bit. And so next time, definitely recommend doing that. Lance did it smart way. I caught him literally doing the routine from school, and I was like, that's so smart. And right as I was about to start doing like some kind of warm up, some kind of routine, so I'm 30 minutes out, I weigh myself in, and somebody called my name, and they're like, you ready? And I was like, I guess. They pull me in. They did my official weight. The official weight was with the rash guard, with the gi. And they're like, you're good. And I was like, yeah, I saw that coming. I was like, I came in at like 184. My weight limit's 195. And then I ran into the guy that I was going to be competing against. His name is Andrew, or Drew, I think is what they call him. And he's excuse me, kind of a funny story. So I knew somebody from the school that he was going to be competing at. And as soon as I said who I was going to be competing against, they go, "Oh," and I was like, "Oh man!" I was like, "He must be good," and that was absolutely correct, by the way. But anyway, I won't get into that just yet. So I ran into him and I met him, and such a nice guy, really tall, really like good reach, kind of lanky like I am, but he's definitely taller, and he was just such a really warm presence, really nice guy. We got to chat a little bit as we're standing in our lines. And so we step up to the mat. A guy comes up and he explains, the referee in between matches, he came up and explained that there was a girl in front of me. So basically, you're standing in line. And so he's on one side, I'm on the other. And they tell you what side you're going to be on. And then we just kind of start going in. And if you ever seen a tournament, the green and yellow belt, I used to think that was something totally different. Somebody somewhere told me that was like a tournament belt or something like that. And maybe that's what it's called. I don't know. But what it actually is it's a belt you wear so they can distinguish, because the referee has the ref has an armband that color, and so he'll throw up the points with that armband on, showing that that person gets that many points, and it just kind of helps keep things straight. So that belt is just to help identify you. It's not like some special belt you wear because you did anything or anything like that. I found that out because I wore it yesterday. But he came up, and as I'm standing in line, he just explained, as you step onto, there's a carpet right up before it leads to the mat. So think of it as like baseball, like you're on deck. The female in front of me, she steps onto the mat, and she puts on the belt. She goes out and she starts competing and everything. And now I'm on this carpet, and I'm literally on the edge of the mat facing the crowd and everything. And I wasn't really nervous. At this point, I was really nervous before I got on the road. And once I was on the road, I wasn't really nervous because I just started listening to music. I get to the tournament and I wasn't nervous at all. Believe it or not, it was like a switch. Like once I got there, I was really comfortable. And I started getting, once I put my feet on the edge of that mat, or once I got to the edge of the mat, I started getting nervous again. I looked at Andrew. He looked at me. We nodded. Very friendly presence. Very, very nice guy. Just an absolute beast of a human being. And so we, the females in front of us are done now, and she takes off the belt and she hands it to me. And this is where I got to be honest with you. It's a lot like some of the, being in the military, some of the experiences where like your senses just kind of dull, like you don't hear things, you don't really, it just happens really fast. And I remember tying the belt, but I remember just doing it very lazily because I had adrenaline pumping. Like now I'm like shaking because adrenaline's just coursing through me. And I step out, and I remember asking somebody, do I shake the ref's hand? And they're like, probably be a good idea. And I was like, all right, cool. So I went up to the ref, I shook his hand. And then I'm trying to listen to the instructions he says, but I honestly am not hearing a thing. And I know Coach Alex is over there, and he's going to be my coach. And I know that I was trying to listen for his voice, and because I knew he was going to give me great advice. But honestly, all my senses went completely dead. I heard nothing. And I did have a game plan going into it for a takedown. I was really hoping he didn't pull guard on me right away. I wanted to see if I could get a good takedown. And so, because I'm not that fast, and I knew that like a single leg or a double leg would take a lot of work for me. So going into it, the ref said something, and I think he said, "Are you ready? Are you ready? All right, fight," or something like that. I have no idea. My senses died. And this is where reality struck. And holy crap. Like, to give you perspective, I did live training, which is like 7x7 training, 7 minutes, 7 partners, 7 times over, 49 minutes total chances of training. And in the first minute of going with Andrew, I was more tired than I was after 49 minutes of training. So the first thing that happened was I grabbed his lapel, he grabbed my arms, and I knew I wanted to try and do a cross collar drag to get him to the ground. And so I went for it, and it kind of worked. And I think it got him down to like a knee because my weight was there, but he was heavier than I was, I'm pretty sure. And so what I ended up doing was able to close a guard on him. And I kept that guard really tight. He was having a really difficult time breaking my guard. And it actually very early on put me in a position. I was actually able to get my legs around his head. and I had a very loose kind of triangle on him, and I could tell that he had a little bit of panic on that because I actually was in a position, and this is where I need to definitely focus on executing submissions better. But somebody with more experience, I think, could have finished that triangle right there because I had it where I could have potentially gotten it a little bit. But it's something to work on in the lab, right, back at class. And then I knew that people were saying things, but I have no idea what they were saying. And I was trying to listen. I'm paying attention to the clock. What felt like an hour just happened. And it was like literally like 30 seconds or like a minute. And I was like, holy crap. I was like, this is different. So he gets on top of me. And what I focus on when I'm on my back is I focus on keeping my elbows and my knees connected together, and it's something I learned called I think it's called Diamond Guard, and it works really well. I'm able to spin really quickly on that, and it served me really well for a while yesterday. And I was trying to stretch him out at one point. I had my leg on his leg, and he went to stand up while he was in my close guard, and I was able to hook my leg around his or my arm around his leg, and then I switched the positions because I remember that's something Lance showed me. Instead of pulling him down, hook around and pull down on his knee to break his posture down. And I did that, and I was able to do a sit-up sweep, which worked really well, and I was able to completely roll him over, and I established a high mount on him. And then on top of that, I was, as he turned, I was able to kind of take his back a little bit. And so I got 4 points, and so I'm now winning at this point. And man, I really, that was where like I realized in that moment that two things: my cardio was trash, and I got to work on executing submissions and establishing the position before I try to move on. Because when I had his back, or if I would have spent more time on his high mount and establishing myself before I got, tried to go too fast paced, then I think that I would have potentially gotten a chance to do more things in that position. Not saying that I would have won, but I think I would have had a little bit more opportunity. So something else I took to mind is establishing position before you try to advance the position. And I've heard my professors and coaches say that, and reality hit. And my body was like kind of thrashing, and everyone told me after that I looked very calm and like my cardio was good. Truth was is I was dying. I was absolutely dying. And so I had his back, and he was able to bump me off, and we kind of switched things over, and I had him in. I was trying to go for a half guard, and then he ended up. I remember I did hear his coach saying, "I need you to get his chest on his chest," and I was able to kind of like press him away, but I had to be mindful of that because I know that an experienced person can, like, I've extended my arms. I gave them exactly what they wanted, and I was really sloppy about that yesterday. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And he was able to finally like drive his chest into my chest and establish that, and he ended up getting 4 points. And right at the end, he grabbed my lapel, and so we have 10 seconds left. I remember looking at the clock, still can't really hear very much because it's just adrenaline happening. And he has it like across my neck like this, pinning me down, and I can't breathe, and the pressure is growing really quickly. And it was rough. And I remember seeing 4, 3, 2, 1, and I actually tapped, but I tapped after the mat was finished. And there's some other details. I honestly brain dumped so much yesterday. It was just this pure adrenaline rush. Like, we had to get reset a couple times. I'm sure more things happen. And a lot of people say it was a really good match. But it was when I look back at the bracket, he won because of points. And even though it was 4-4, I think he got advantage points because I think he was the most recent person to score a point. And so I think that mattered because the mat was finished and he raised his hand. And so something else I learned is after that, and we hugged, and super good guy. I was so humbled to share the mat with him. He was an absolute beast, a vicious competitor, and a very good person. And I'm super excited. And I hope I get to share the mats with him again and train with him and compete with him again. Phenomenal guy. Andrew, if you ever see this, absolute beast. He did go on to win first place in our division, and I was so excited to see that. That was really awesome. He was so good. And I was just really, really excited to see that. And he was such a good competitor. And at our level, I would love to see him in the future and see how far he advances and everything with that too. So that was awesome. I got to watch a lot of other great people compete as well. The black belts were just, man, that's legendary to watch black belts get to compete. And And Professor JP taught me a lot and was explaining a lot of things to me. But going back to Coach Alex and why getting those 4 points, him showing me, he kind of helped me develop a plan on how to get my points, and I would have had no idea how to get those points, those 4 points I got, which basically kept it from being an annihilation, if he didn't take the time to break that down for me and show me the what advancing my position looked like. And so one thing I might have done different, and I wouldn't do anything different on this tournament. It was such a great experience. I loved it. I didn't win. I didn't get a medal, but I couldn't be more humbled and more excited to get back into it. And it rekindled my love of jiu-jitsu, and I had a great time. I wouldn't do a single thing different. And I think that even though I learned more, or quote unquote lost, I think I won, because yesterday was about me showing up for me, and it was me against me, because a year ago I quit and now here I am competing, and that was really exciting, and that was a big deal for me. And it showed me just how far I have to go in this journey. And I'm, even though I say that and I think that, I can't even begin to fathom what I don't know. I have no concept of what I don't know. That's the reality of it. But yesterday showed me the difference between competing and training, and wow, what a difference. Like, it is so different. My body felt like, honest to God, my after the tournament, it was like after my first jiu-jitsu lesson, I felt like I just got thrashed by a train. I mean, and I practice, I train, I think I do anyway sometimes. And yesterday was so different. Like, I felt like I got absolutely thrashed by a train, and he was really good. I mean, I was just so grateful I got to play with him, train with him, compete against him, all that good stuff. It was so much fun. But it really gave me a lot of perspective on things to bring back to the mat and training. And I need to up my training and start really working on some stuff and listening more and taking advantage of more opportunities to train at different levels with different people. And that's so important. So I will kind of conclude it with this: that a year ago I almost quit jiu-jitsu, and yesterday I competed in jiu-jitsu. And I'm so thankful to the professors, the coaches. Yesterday, I really understood. I've always felt the brotherhood and the camaraderie and the family of Gracie Barra. Yesterday, though, was a totally different experience. I've never been so proud to be a part of anything in my whole life as Gracie Barra yesterday. And what a phenomenal family! Just the constant mentorship, guidance, being there for each other, looking out for each other. It was amazing. I can't imagine being a part of a different school. I never imagined that something outside the military would look like that or be like that. And it was just a beautiful thing to be a part of. I cannot thank my coaches, my professors, my partners, my fellow students, and my friends for just the wonderful environment that you guys have created for us to be a part of. And I'm very, very thankful for that. So I've spent about 30 minutes on this episode. Long story short, I wouldn't do anything different yesterday, and I'm actually really thankful I lost. Of course, it's always nice to win, but Professor JP said something yesterday that sometimes people don't know how to lose, and I think that we talked about that. That was a different conversation yesterday. I think that's absolutely true, and I think that taking that lesson that I learned yesterday and the opportunity to learn more and bringing that back home to the lab and being able to work on that, man, it can only make me better, as long as I don't quit and I don't give up on myself and I continue to learn and grind and dig and everything. You could only get better at jiu-jitsu, and you could only grow as a training partner for others to get better as well. So thank you to everybody that wished me well in the tournament. Great job to Andrew. Great job to all the other competitors, and especially to those that placed, but especially to those that didn't. Man, I know you're going to take something just like I am back home, and you're going to absolutely work and grind on it, and you're going to improve so much because of the work that you're going to put in between here and your next tournament. And man, just really, really wonderful experience. I fell in love with jiu-jitsu all over again yesterday. And so if you're ever thinking about competing, I hope this video resonates. If you remember your first time competing, feel free to drop me a comment, shoot me a message on Instagram, whatever it is. But it was such a phenomenal experience. I highly recommend competing. And to echo Professor Fabi's words, as far as just being a white belt, I have no other belts to compare it to. But if you get an opportunity to compete as a white belt, especially in a competent at Gracie Baja School, absolutely encourage it. And I hope that I maybe get to see you out there and train with you and compete with you as well, or just sit on the sidelines and root you on as well. So if all else fails, as always, thanks for listening, and don't forget to tap. Thank you guys so much. You guys take care, and we'll see you next time.